Hello and welcome everyone. It is 1 o'clock on April 3rd, and today we are going to discuss planning weekly schedules in elementary for about a half an hour, and then we'll preview 3 must-have enrichment sites in the elementary classroom in the second half an hour. So we plan to I'll stop the video at about halfway through, and then we'll keep pushing right on through there. Excellent. Let's glance at a presentation. So let's have a conversation. We're thinking through weekly schedules in the elementary. And so our Nebraska Department of Education recently came out with what they called some guidelines around planning for what's going on now. What are we going to do? The Department of Education identifies 2 different options for folks, both at the elementary and at the secondary. They call one enrichment opportunities, and the second one educational opportunities. Educational opportunities are these more teacher-led experiences. They feel a lot more like a traditional lesson in your classroom. And so we need to have things like that teacher-led input. Maybe that's through some videos, maybe it's through some readings, but then also include things like a process activity, maybe some practice around that skill, and then maybe a quick product. And we'll dive deeper into what that looks like in just a moment, but now let's think a little bit about those enrichment activities. Now, we said educational opportunities feel more like really a traditional lesson. The enrichment opportunities, this feels more like kids working inside of your independent learning platforms. And when I say that, I'm talking about those tools that your district is paying for. Maybe it's that textbook company, and so you have access to the online version of the textbook. That's great. Maybe it's a product like iExcel. Maybe it's a product like Study Island or Zern. Zern's a really good one. But these maybe would fall under our enrichment opportunities where kids can get into those platforms and work at their own pace. And so we're going to dive deeper first into enrichment opportunities. So I like to talk about enrichment opportunities from a few different types. So first, I want to highlight the gamified independent learning platforms. And so this is where kids get in. So you're looking at what's the student experience, what's the teacher experience, and what are some examples. When we're talking about these gamified independent learning platforms, kids are having fun while they're practicing. So for example, in Prodigy's instance, this is a math program for grades, if I remember correctly, 1 through 8. Prodigy, kids are a wizard and they walk around inside of a realm. There's a few different realms. Kids can be working together, which is really kind of cool. In our quarantine status quo, we don't get to interact with peers. So kids could interact with their peers, and you, either the teacher, you can set a specific skill that the kids are practicing, or let the kids engage in mastery learning, where they take a test at the very beginning that puts them on their path, and then they progress on their own path. So coming back to this idea of gamified, and specifically in the context of Prodigy, we'll see it in the second half. I want to highlight it more then. But kids now can either engage in quests. So they're this wizard, they get a job. They're supposed to go to the top of a tower. And the tower has 99 floors, and I'm really not kidding. I watched my 3rd grader last year do this, now 4th grade. She was engaged deeply in getting to the top of this 99-story tower, and so that she could accomplish this quest. But now think about that. Every single floor, she had to answer a math question. Can you imagine if I had given her a worksheet with 99 problems, how excited she would have been about that? So these are gamified independent learning platforms. The key difference between a gamified one and one that's more skill-based or standards-based is that lack of game. On the teacher side, it feels much the same. You don't have to create the content, and you get to see student progress in both of these instances. You can assign content or potentially allow for those mastery paths. The key distinction, though, is the gamified is fun for those kids, and the not so gamified is maybe not so fun for those kids. All right, let's talk a little bit about specific skill practice sites, or maybe specific skill games. There's a lot of really great websites that can have kids practice a specific skill within a game environment. Maybe it's not within a game environment. One example I think everybody's familiar with is abca.com. There's all sorts of educational games that are aligned to specific skills. Another site is Math Playground. That's a really good one as well. If you're looking at specific math games, that would be a nice one for you to play with too. So great. Let's talk about the teacher experience. And so once again, on the student side, so these are game-based, and we're going to see kids enjoying it probably a little bit more than that traditional worksheet experience of like an IXL or an Extra Math. Those sites are not gamified. IXL, Extra Math, it feels a lot like a worksheet. With these sites, though, or specific sites or online games, you, the teacher, don't get to see the progress unless the students take like a screenshot of it, for example, and send it to you. Nice is that you don't have to create the content again, but that you don't, a downside is you don't get to see the progress, as well as students can't really go on a mastery path. What I mean by that is it's one specific site to practice one specific skill. So it's a little bit different. Another option, and this is maybe a little bit more for those secondary folks, is the idea of engaging kids in some sort of an online certificate program. There are all sorts of sites, and so here's a great list of 20 examples of what that might look like. But where students will get in and obtain a certificate from an external spot. So wonderful. These are a few types of online enrichment opportunities. I'd like to now focus on our educational opportunities. So remember, the enrichment opportunities really are meant as more practice. It's okay in the NDE definition, it's okay if there's some new learning happening, as long as it really is on that student's mastery path. When you think about connecting with your kids, if we're using these enrichment opportunities, I would potentially recommend meeting with kids based on their needs. So you would probably find in your math classroom, you have a couple kiddos who are a grade or two above where they should be, and you probably have a few kiddos who are a grade or two below where they should be. Allowing kids to work in these independent learning platforms, either gamified or not gamified, lets them work at their own level. And potentially then, you might decide in those Zoom meetings or direct connects that you're having with those kids that you break up the groups by ability, and can focus then on skills more appropriate to this group, that group, or the other group. Excellent. These are enrichment opportunities. Let's shift gears and think a little bit more deeply about those educational opportunities. So once again, this feels fairly good to us. And the real thing that I want everybody to do right now, everybody, take a deep breath. We're all wonderful educators. I truly believe that. We are all wonderful educators. We're being asked right now to do something that we've never been asked to do. We're creating either these online or offline, or maybe it's a combination of online and offline. but we're creating these educational opportunities for our kids. So that the NDE definition of an educational opportunity is that this is more of a teacher-led experience organized around a standard, a skill potentially, but it's standards-based education. Instead of that enrichment opportunity where you might not have the teacher interaction or maybe that instruction segment, maybe it's just the practice with enrichment. Here, with educational opportunities, it's really important that we do include some sort of instruction. So the key question when we're thinking through planning these educational opportunities, this new learning where we're trying to get everybody to continue. I mean, we're not going to have all of fourth quarter. That's a long time. So we want to try to hit those main ideas, those big ideas in the what is left for the rest of the academic year. The point is, we still want to keep our eye on that research-based best practices. We need to include some form of instruction, and we're thinking about that specific skill. So for example, if we're talking about maybe it's writing, or let's talk about, sure, let's talk about writing. All right, the input would be, what is the genre that we're asking kids to write? Maybe, well, let's talk about expository texts. Maybe we'd find a quick video that explains, this is an expository text. Great, that's some input. Maybe there's a video, maybe there's a reading, maybe you give them an opportunity to pick. Do you want to watch the video or do you want to do the reading? But the point is, it's there. We're not expecting our parents or big brother, big sister to be the sole source or the main source of input. We want to include some input. That might be something you've recorded yourself, maybe using Zoom. It might be something you've curated, found on YouTube or found on TeacherTube or some other spot. But again, the key here is that there is some input that talks to what that learning goal is. Also, that it's followed up. And so when we talk about the flipped classroom, one of the key questions I get from educators who back in the time of normalness were engaging kids in some flipped instruction where they share a video, a key question was, well, how do I know that the kids watched or read or engaged with that instruction prior to coming to class? The answer is, we got to engage them with a quick process activity. This is a comprehension check. Maybe it's a single question asking about that video. And maybe it's even something simple like a multiple choice question, but that we're holding kids accountable for processing, thinking a little bit about what that input was. And this is true in 12th grade. I also feel this is true in preschool, that we want to have this input with a quick process activity. I want to show you what that might look like in just a little bit. Then we would get on to that practice. Maybe in the example of a math classroom, this might be using the paper worksheet if we're packet-based. That's great. In an offline example, maybe the input is a reading or a quick paragraph that you write for mom and dad to read. Again, the expectation is that they might not know everything about education and therefore might not feel comfortable being that sole source of input. So wonderful, we engage kids in some practice. Let's think about a social studies classroom. Maybe the input is a brief snip or a video of a specific culture, okay, or a specific place. And then the practice activity, maybe we're practicing the key vocabulary. We can practice key vocabulary, or maybe it is the skills in the math class. So trying to understand the process of solving the problem in this specific instance. Finally, we get to the idea of having a quick product. And the real purpose of having this quick product is to get kids to dive just a little bit deeper. And so we talk about depths of knowledge, that we want them to be able to apply. And so in the math classroom, this might be they solve one word problem and then they record their voice explaining, this is how I got to the product or the answer. In the social studies classroom, maybe this is one slide. We're not talking about 30 slides. We're not talking about 30 pages. Maybe it's one slide where there's a quick summary of whatever it is we were learning in the instruction. Let's dive just a little bit deeper. I want to share with you, I'm very excited about this. I hope some of you are going to take me up on it. We have created a weekly schedule auto generator whereby you think through what is, so we're still talking about those educational experiences. We're still thinking about the need for identifying what is the objective. Remember, educational opportunities are standards-based. So what is the learning goal? What is that specific chunk of information we're talking about? And then to turn it into, and you can see it over here on the right, to turn it into a quick I can statement. So from a student perspective, the learning goal in the Spanish classroom may be that we're going to concentrate on the interpretive mode of communication. It doesn't matter what that means, but the point is in the I can statement, we're using student-friendly words. So here, I can hear each word in a native Spanish song. That's the student-friendly version of the teacher talk that is your standards. So now you might think through what are those online or offline, that I don't mean to say you have to have both. Some of us are in the context where we are offline only. Some of us are in the context of we are online only. And I bet there's a couple of you who are in both seats here. But the point is identifying what is that input, what is that quick process activity. You can see it over here and start the race. What is the practice down the stretch? What is the product, that finish? What are we asking kids to create, that quick creation? Now let's talk about time expectations. I would not want this experience to take a child longer than an hour to complete. I think that's an appropriate amount of time for one chunk, one educational opportunity in a given day. So I want to talk more about what that schedule looks like in just a second too. Last thing I'll say about this slide is that there are 10 different templates available. So you think through what you're doing, you fill out a form, and it will automatically create your learning path, this one pager that you could print or you could post. It's editable. If you made a mistake, you can change it. There's 10 different templates, and about half of them are a little bit more elementary centric. About half of them are a little bit more secondary centric. Let's continue. Manageable expectations. This is super duper key, super key. So I want to take a brief moment. I'm going to stop my share. We have 20 folks on here, and I'm going to give you a poll. How about that? So the poll says, how confident are you can do this? My question is, how confident are you can think through, you can create an educational opportunity for your kids? Go ahead. Another 30 seconds. Come on, come on. All right, I'm gonna end the poll and I'm gonna show you the results. So we're feeling kind of across the board. We're feeling, there's some of us who are feeling we got this. There's some of us who are feeling with some help I got this. And there's still some of us who are thinking, I need a little bit more support. So that's good to know. Let's keep thinking. Let's keep thinking together. I'm going to share that screen one more time. All right, manageable expectations. And I think this is really key. What are your district expectations? I think I don't want to tell everybody here, these are the only expectations you should have. That's not what I'm communicating. You need to follow those guidelines from your district, and hopefully we have some consistency across grade levels for those parents who have kids in multiple grade levels, right? So great. I would recommend you consider engaging kids in one educational opportunity each day. Maybe you have a schedule whereby something like Monday and Tuesday is math, Wednesday is writing, maybe Thursdays in English language arts, Fridays is science social studies. But that you're engaging kids in that educational opportunity. Let's dive just a little bit deeper into some examples. And these are all on the website that we're going to see in just a little bit too. I'm going to zoom in so that you can see it just a little bit better. So here's an example, and actually I need to give credit to Kearney Public Schools because they shared this out, and then I adapted it to meet our needs. So in reading, that you're going to learn about cause and effect. So your first activity is that instruction that you're going to learn about it. So either you're going to review this graphic organizer that talks about cause and effects with your family member, or here is a link to a quick teacher video that I have created as the teacher that explains that graphic organizer, right? The real focus again is on cause and effect. Notice the instruction is on the learning objective. Now we're ready for a process activity. You're going to read this half chicken, and you're going to use then that graphic organizer to identify cause and effect. So there you go. You have your offline activity is the reading, or you could choose to watch somebody reading the book. Let's scroll down. Here's another key point. Maybe your district is saying, we can't do more than a half an hour. Maybe, I guess my biggest point here is some of these activities could be optional. Maybe that with the practice, it's let's do this again, but now in a different context. You're going to read a different one and find a cause and effect relationship, or watch it and find a cause and effect relationship. I have to back up for just a second. It's really important with the process activity that kids get some immediate feedback. So for example, if we're going to have them complete this graphic organizer by themselves, I strongly recommend that in that packet or on that in learning management system, whatever it is we're communicating, you include your answers so that the kids can check. They can check, am I on the right path or not? Great, the product, quick, show what you know. And offline might be talk with your family member. And online might be use Seesaw or email to communicate, to share that cause and effect relationship. So great. You'll also notice over here that you see those I can statements along the side. And both before we learn, and then there's a spot after you learn. And maybe this is how you'd like to organize it too. I'm going to scroll down and we're going to see a math example. All right, in math class, we're going to focus on counting coins. So obviously our objective then is, let's start with the student-friendly I can. I can count coins. Great. Your instruction is either you can read or you can watch this video where it's talking about counting coins. And then the process is that you're going to complete the problem sets, right? And share with the family member, or send a picture of that work to your teacher, potentially in an online setting. More practice, maybe it's that worksheet in an offline example, or one of my favorite tools for this specific skill practice is IXL. They have a lot of wonderful specific skill question sets for kids to engage with. So maybe you give them that opportunity. You can either do it offline or you can do it online. So, and then showing what you know. Have a family check your answers, or maybe there's a seesaw activity that you want the kids to do to count money. Now let's come back and look at some of these bonus tasks. What do you mean by bonus tasks? Well, potentially you're engaging your students in one educational opportunity whereby we're identifying instruction, process, practice, and product, and also giving kids the opportunity to engage in one enrichment opportunity each one of those days. Maybe we organize those in something that looks kind of like a choice board. So here's an example of what that might look like. So the directions are, here are some enrichment opportunities for the week. Maybe you communicate those as bonus tasks in a specific content area, or maybe you combine them and you add a combination of playing Prodigy for 20 minutes. In reading, you're going to read something out of the National Geographic and fill out a non-fiction graphic organizer. Maybe it's something just kind of extra. Learn how to sign your name. Record yourself and turn it in Seesaw. Maybe you ask kids to do some free reading inside of Epic and to engage with those comprehension questions. Potentially, you ask them to participate in an ESU 5 science class. And these are, I have to give this a plug. Patrick Brummer out of ESU 5 is going to put on a series of 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade science classes starting this coming week. Every week there'll be a new thing for your students to take advantage of. I think that'd be something great to include on a choice board. Maybe it's your spelling. Maybe it's watch an episode of Teacher TV. Are you familiar with the Teacher TV? This is another one I'd really like to highlight. NSEA has partnered with Network, or NCN, the Network Nebraska people. I'm saying that wrong, I know I am. But the point is, every day, Monday through Friday, from 9 to 11, there's elementary programming. And folks can access this, streaming it online through News Channel Nebraska, there you go. Or you can access it through your cable, through an antenna. It's a great opportunity for kids to engage with. But that would be an example of one of these enrichment opportunities because it doesn't include that instruction, process, practice, product. So great, we're almost there. We only have 2 more minutes. Let's come on down. So in just a little bit, I want to share with you some of my favorites if we're talking about enrichment. We've thought through that educational opportunity. If I were to identify in an elementary context, what are some of my top enrichment tools in the pre-K 2nd grade, I'd say it's Freckle and Epic. We're going to see them in just a little bit. Then in 3rd through 6th, or maybe even down, Prodigy would go down to 1st grade. Dreamscapes claims it goes down to 2nd grade, but these are 2 amazing gamified independent learning platforms, and I'm going to show you them in just a little bit. We made it. We'll do those for the secondary. I'm going to come back over here and remind everybody that this site, I'm going to put it in our chat, this site is where you will find the resources that we're talking about. You'll find those templates, you'll find the resources around the educational opportunities. I'm still in the process of adding guidance around enrichment opportunities, but that'll get up there. And here's a link to a blank chart that if you wanted to use this to help you organize. And this is that auto generator. You fill out the form, you pick which of the templates you like the best, Maybe let's look at spaceship. There you go, a little bit more of an elementary centric idea. You fill it out, it'll automatically send it back to you. This is that document we were just looking at, the elementary weekly plan template. And then when you scroll down, this is where I'll start adding some of the enrichment content too. So great, I'm gonna stop my recording.